I stand here today, producing words from the broken, experience turned into poetry, and through my peers it is spoken, to show vulnerability through art to make others aware, but often it is our deepest hurt we desperately need to share. So I give you now a collection of brokenness, memory and shame, written to normalise speaking openly about hurt, in order to release that pain. For here are the stories that live within our friends, the ones that don't get spoken. Here I stand, producing words from the broken.
We didn't choose this path to have to introduce ourselves again.
And again, as if we enjoyed the concept of reincarnation. Hi.
Hey.
Nice to meet you.
Call me
New girl. Everyone else does.
It started with a simple transfer across town for the ease of my parents.
And ended with 3 countries,
4 cities,
and 11 different schools.
for the ease of
No one at all. Some people would call it experience, or well-travelled. I'd call it problematic.
Imagine your childhood best friend, a little brown bear called Ted. The two of you were inseparable.
Until was lost on the flight to country number 2. And why bother searching for him, when you're so used to leaving things that mattered behind? Maybe it's the root cause of why I can't sustain relationships.
Or maybe why I feel a little lost in my journey of life.
Or maybe not. Maybe I'm just looking for someone to blame.
But how can you feel well grounded?
When you have nowhere safe to plant yourself. And when you do,
You're expecting to be plucked from the earth without a warning.
I didn't want to leave.
I didn't want the feeling of being settled to only make temporary appearances.
I wanted to know myself.
Remember my first garden?
Remember the first car we owned?
Walk in the footsteps of my youth.
And who? Who might I have been if we'd never moved?
And that for me is the change you don't see.
Numb, broken, bleak. Everything around me is bleak. There's no way to dramatise the emptiness that swallows me whole. The future could be brighter than sunrise. The world could grant me all it's worth, but that will not make me feel. It's 4:36 AM and the tears cascade down my cheeks, as if my body is conducting me into a purpose. Yet, the orchestra inside my brain remains frozen in a pitiful silence. My cheeks are damp, and my body is rigid. At 1:43 PM, I stare vacantly out of the furthest window in the room. They call me out as if it was not my natural state of being, but an effort of escapism, self-inflicted. And my wry smile exists for a moment at their discretion. Because if I were to open the door to my emptiness and share the key, they would let the world walk through. It wasn't always like this, numb, broken, and bleak. It was never the fortune I was hoping to reap. It was thrust upon me, numb, broken, and bleak. That for me is the change you don't see.
I was still in the late stages of adolescence when the duties of parenthood hit me like a truck. A truck going about 25 miles an hour. Not fast enough to destroy me, but slow enough to damage parts of me I never knew existed. The isolation graced me the following year, a prisoner held in my own castle protected by a moat of responsibility, while a child screams for just one more favour. The peacefulness hits around noon when she's finally settled for the few hours I'm lucky enough to grasp, yet my mind plays previews of the hell that's to come the moment those afternoon naps cease to exist. And I realise the isolation may never pause. It isn't a visitor, it's my goddamn roommate. They say I'm not alone. They say I'm doing well. They say she looks just like me. But they don't see the panic in my bloodstream when I logically examine the idea that this small being could be anything like me. And I know I'm blessed, I know I'm lucky, I know I'm the mother of a miracle. But this miracle changed more than just my status on this earth, it changed my whole existence. And that, for me, is the change you don't see.
For the longest time, I could not say a word. I couldn't say a word. Because if I spoke, if I ever tried to open my mouth, my words would fall out like jigsaw pieces, and not one easily scrambled together again. It would be me speaking, and this world of ours would stop and listen as if poor little me had anything of worth to say. And if the children in year 3 felt like monsters shouting "speak" as if I was their pet Labrador, I couldn't have imagined the dangers that laid before me as the specialists were sent for. I learned to speak, all jumbled up and miscommunicated, one step behind the rest of my peers. Just another disadvantage in the process of my growth. I learned one of the most imperative skills while the whole world was watching. Not with desire in their eyes. They just wanted to be part of this miraculous happening. Or at least that's how I've conditioned myself to feel. For I am not the quivering child sat in the doctor's chair. Too small to fill the seat, too frightened to make eye contact. I am the performer with the hidden history. The stages of my life undiscovered by the new characters I meet. For that is the change they don't see.
It didn't start with the bruises or the counselling, or waking up in the middle of the night out of terror. It started with false accusations strung too far, the inability to hold my own strength, and the fact that I was different. As if different should transform you into some sort of punching bag. For the kids who thought that they could throw their words at me, as well as their fists, they felt that they owned me and my own self-worth. And maybe for a while, they did. Looking back, it wasn't the physical abuse that endured time. It was the slander, the abuse shouted at me daily. In my head, I had my own built-in record player and it was stuck on repeat. You're disgusting. You're gay. No one cares what you have to say. You're fat. Just ooh. No one's ever gonna love you. And I can change my clothes. I can dye my hair. But there'll be another convenient target. And I'd rather take the hit than watching others bleed. Don't you get it? I am no exception. I am just a common thread, used until it is no longer advantageous to them. But time will pass, and so will their abuse. And maybe they shall forget it, or my own existence. But the same cannot be said for the victim. For how can a person move on and forget when they will always feel stuck in that child's body, who grew up being too different to be accepted? And that, for me, is the change you won't see.
Hey, I'm straight. No, hi, I'm gay. Wait, I'm definitely straight. Well, that depends on the day. For the labels they give may not keep their adhesion. I am what I am. Why do you need a reason? When people say we need to be tolerated, as if we're trouble, it's not something to live with. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. You think anyone would choose to go against heteronormative ways? I don't care how much time has progressed when it's still being labelled as a phase. And the jokes you make and the laughter shared, the insults disguised as humour, control my thoughts, make me feel ashamed, all because of you and your petty rumour. I get called a sinner by a God I can't know because of my own sexuality. But if God is omnibenevolent and he has this plan, then he must have placed it deep within me. For love is love, is love is love. Do you not get it? Is it not clear? I don't have a problem with your love, so please take your judgment from here. Stop taking my happiness for your destruction. Stop trying to change the way I should be, because I am who I am, no matter your opinions. And that is the change you don't see.
Excuse me, sir, did I give you permission to place your hand in places I never consented to? Excuse me, sir, did you feel anything
once the eruption of pleasure evicted itself from your body?
Excuse me, sir, did you realise
that a broken woman lay trembling on the path of your dominance?
Excuse me, sir, did you think this game to play was two-player and you kept the controls to yourself? Excuse me, miss, did I give you permission to use my nightmare as a fuel for your daily talk show? Excuse me, miss, did you feel anything
as the naive teenager sat inconsolable at your feet?
Excuse me, miss, did you realise
your silence graced my confession with disregard and disrespect?
Excuse me, miss, did you think your voice could have been an army fueling the justice I desperately seeked? Excuse me, sir, did it cross your mind?
That my screams were not a cheerleading chant for your encouragement.
Excuse me, sir, do you still remember the way it felt to grip too tight onto my shoulders?
Or the way it felt to leave bruises that may disappear but always be felt?
The way I flinch at any sign of physical belonging? Or the way you destroyed the innocence I had? Excuse me, sir, but did you know?
I cannot walk alone without my heart pounding.
I replay this chapter on repeat but can never publish it to the world. I no longer feel human. Excuse me, sir, did you know you destroyed all I could have been? And that, excuse me, sir, is the change you don't see.
You left a space, no, a large, gaping hole when the earth swallowed you up and ran away with our souls. The grief was expected, the aching was not. For my dear, you were the spirit my God somehow forgot. There sits the satin you were draped in, the candle burning roses. We stare at your armchair, empty, with these scents in our noses. Time travels away. The months turn into years, birthdays without your wishes, our Christmas filled with tears. You were the definition of family, the glue that sealed us tight, lying in loose sheets, no one to tuck me in goodnight. Mum keeps breaking like china, in which I attempt to be the glue, but I'm only cheap and weak. The strength was always you. For your hands offered purity, your fierce nature told us tales, your bread and butter was unbeatable, and your constant neglect for the scales. Maybe I shall forget the colour of your eyes, or your insistent need to plan, but I will not forget the way you shaped the very being that I am. I may never gain back your presence, but you've made me all I could be, and I will continue making you proud. And that for me is the change you don't see.
These are not rare findings dramatised for your amusement. These are memoirs shared to normalise life experience. For we are not the young boy too afraid to speak. We are not the young parent whose own success is seen through the life of their child. We are individuals built through this change, and not remembered because of it. For our whole existence is not built around discovering others' hidden experiences. They are being aware and understanding that they may exist. For that friend, 16, sat quietly in the corner of maths class, much quieter than usual. Her face looks really tired. She's not waiting for you to explore every inch of the story of her rape, or your compassion to appear only when she does so. She's hoping that it was always there, even with no incentive to entice you. And you know how it feels to change so rapidly, to have life experience thrust upon you when you weren't expecting it. But you are the product of transition, a flower at full bloom who needed the dirt to make you brighter. Remember that life is beautiful, and it is also yours. So shake it off, this constant longing to be someone you're not. You are not another cog in this machine of life. You are a whole machine of your own, producing something that no one else can. You're doing a damn good job. And even if it doesn't feel like it, if memory or experience makes your vision a little cloudy, if another unexpected gust of wind sets you back in your path, it's okay. It's okay not to be okay. You are ever growing and changing and becoming more you than you'll ever be before. And that's the change they will see.